Daniel's shoulders sagged. The adrenaline that had kept him upright finally bled out of him, leaving him trembling in the snow. His chest rose and fell in shallow, ragged breaths as he looked at the three dogs, not as monsters now, but as survivors just like him. Ryan moved closer, boots crunching softly on the frost, his hands still steady on his holstered weapon. "Easy," he said, his voice firm but not unkind. "You're bleeding pretty bad. Let's get you inside before you freeze out here." Daniel's lips parted, cracked and pale. "Why help me?" His voice was weak, but there was a spark of suspicion beneath it. He'd run too long to believe in kindness. Ryan crouched, meeting his eyes. "Because someone already tried to put you down. And I don't believe in second bullets unless I know the whole story." The words hit Daniel harder than the cold. For the first time in months, maybe years, he felt the faintest flicker of trust. His knees buckled, and Ryan caught him before he collapsed into the snow. Behind them, Rex let out a low, guttural growl, not at Daniel this time but at the tree line. Ryan's eyes narrowed, scanning the dark wall of pines swaying in the winter wind. Nothing moved. Still, the hair on his neck prickled. He glanced back at the dogs. Their bodies were tense, ears pinned, muscles coiled. They weren't watching him or Daniel anymore. They were watching the woods. Ryan muttered under his breath, "We're not alone." Daniel's bloodied hand clenched weakly on Ryan's sleeve. "Kane, he'll never stop." The name cut through the air like a blade. Ryan didn't press. Not yet. He tightened his grip on Daniel and guided him toward his truck. The dogs followed in formation, silent shadows at their heels. As Ryan lifted Daniel into the cab, headlights flickered on the far ridge. A pair, then a second pair of vehicles, moving slow, watching. Ryan's gut turned cold. Whoever they were, they hadn't come for a neighborly visit. He slammed the door shut, his breath fogging in the freezing night. "Hold on, Brooks," he said, sliding behind the wheel. "Looks like your nightmare just followed you home." The engine roared to life, the truck lurching forward as snow kicked up behind them. The dogs bounded alongside, their eyes glinting in the dark. And for the first time, Ryan realized the truth. These weren't just scarred animals, they were witnesses. Living evidence. And someone out there was willing to kill to silence them. The lamp above the entrance flickered against the night, casting tired shadows on the frost. Ryan stepped outside, collar pulled high, his breath curling white in the air. Inside the station, the warmth struck him like a wave. Coffee brewing, paper shuffling, the faint hum of aging fluorescence. Under his arm, he carried a brown evidence bag. Inside lay Daniel Brooks' torn jacket, stained with blood, ripped at the shoulder, heavier than it looked. Something about it had bothered him since the hospital. Too many times Ryan had handled evidence where the truth wasn't written in reports, but hidden in fabric, dirt, or silence. Daniel's story, unbelievable as it sounded, had that same unfinished scent, a piece missing. At his desk, Ryan slid on latex gloves and unzipped the bag. The jacket's lining felt uneven, thicker on one side, almost reinforced. He pressed along the seam, and with a faint tear the stitching gave way. Inside, his fingers closed around a small black USB drive, scratched but intact. He held it to the light, whispering, "Well, Daniel, looks like you weren't finished talking." He powered up the station's wheezing desktop. The USB blinked alive. A folder opened, filled with hundreds of encrypted files labeled with dates and serial numbers. One lone text file wasn't password protected. Ryan clicked. His eyes scanned coded shorthand, shipments, locations, container IDs, abbreviations for rifles, ammunition, calibers. A ledger of illegal weapons runs. Daniel had been telling the truth, but not the whole truth. No names, no signatures, no photos linking Victor Kane to the shipments. Like a map without a compass, Ryan leaned back, rubbing at his temples. The case had grown deeper and murkier. Without proof, the feds would write it off as another fugitive's fantasy. Yet Daniel had risked his life for this. Ryan copied the files to a secure folder, ejected the drive, and sealed it in an evidence pouch with his own label. The sound of claws on tile snapped his thoughts. Rex stood in the doorway, dusted with snow, his brown eyes locked on Ryan. Behind him, Officer Karen Doyle appeared, breathless, parka half-zipped, sorry. He slipped the gate, bolted while I was feeding the others. Ran straight here. Ryan frowned. "Straight to me." Karen nodded. "Wouldn't stop. Followed your scent. Maybe you two have a connection." Rex padded forward, sniffed the air, then pressed his nose to the bloodied jacket. The sound he made wasn't a growl, it was sharper, urgent. He pawed at the fabric, nostrils flaring, before snapping his head toward Ryan and letting out one sharp bark. Ryan blinked. "What is it, boy?" Another bark, tail stiff, body tense. Then Rex turned toward the door, waiting. Karen folded her arms. "You think he's trying to show you something?" Ryan hesitated. Rex wasn't trained under him, not officially, but the intensity in the dog's eyes, it was the same look Shadow had given him years ago when instinct screamed louder than orders. "Yeah," Ryan said finally, pulling on his coat. "Maybe I do." He clipped a leash from the wall, though Rex didn't need it. The dog matched his stride as they stepped out into the cold night. The town was silent except for the crunch of boots and paws on snow. They followed the back road out of Pine Valley into the trees. Karen trailed behind a while before stopping at the corner. "You're going into the woods alone with him." Ryan glanced back. "You're welcome to file that under bad decisions." She shook her head with a faint smile. "Be careful, Callahan. That dog's got ghosts." "So do I," he murmured, and pressed on. The forest swallowed them, air sharp with pine and frost. Rex led steadily, nose down, pausing now and then to test the wind. Then, after a few hundred yards, he froze. His growl rumbled low, ears flat. He clawed at a mound of snow beneath a tree. Ryan knelt, brushing the snow aside. A corner of metal glinted through the frost. He scraped more away, revealing a crate, its surface weathered but marked. The shipping label, though smudged, was still legible. Ryan's pulse spiked when he read the label Denver Logistics Division. Well, I'll be damned. He tugged at the crate's edge, but it was frozen solid. Rex circled, barking sharp and insistent, tail rigid like a signal. Ryan snapped a few photos, then keyed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Callahan. I've got a buried container east of Marker 6. Coordinates coming. Send backup and recovery." The reply crackled through static. He slid the phone away, glancing down at Rex, now settled beside the crate, alert and steady. "Good work, boy," Ryan murmured. For a heartbeat, it felt like the dog understood. Two survivors exchanging a silent vow. Headlights cut through the trees minutes later. Karen arrived with deputies and a winch truck. Together they dug the snow aside and pried open the crate. Inside lay empty foam rifle casings. No weapons, but the serial imprints told their story. A few soggy papers clung to the bottom. Karen pulled one free. "Shipping manifest," she said. "No destination, just initials. VK." Ryan exhaled as the evidence bag filled. "Our first real lead." Karen's smile was thin. "Or a clever setup. Either way," Ryan replied, glancing at Rex. "He's the one who found it." The shepherd stood proudly by the open crate, chest heaving, claiming his place in the hunt. Hours later, after the crate was secured, Ryan lingered outside under falling snow. The USB in his pocket weighed heavy. Somewhere out there, Victor Kane was moving pieces on a board Ryan was only beginning to see. He glanced at Rex curled on the steps, silvered by the street lamp. "You led me here," he murmured. "Guess I'll follow your lead a while longer." Rex huffed softly, settling into the snow. But the storm was only just beginning. By nightfall, Pine Valley's sky had turned bruised gray. Ryan zipped his jacket, rifle strapped tight across his chest, the SUV idling behind him. Across the road, Rex, Luna, and Finn waited in silence, their breath steaming in the cold. The USB logs pointed to a new coordinate. Another breadcrumb. Coincidence or trap, Ryan couldn't tell. But he was done waiting. He crouched, checking Rex's harness. "All right, boy, show me where this trail ends." Rex sniffed the torn shipping label, growled low, then led them into the woods. Luna and Finn flanked him, shadows in the snow. Ryan followed, flashlight beam cutting the dark. For an hour they trekked deeper, branches sagging under ice, snow swallowing every sound. Then a shape emerged ahead, a cabin, half buried, windows boarded, roof sagging. Abandoned, but too intact. Ryan killed the light, eyes adjusting to the dim moon glow. Weapon drawn, he whispered, "Stay close." The door creaked open at his touch. The smell hit him first, oil, rust, gunpowder. Inside, a lantern flickered on a crate. Wooden boxes lined the walls, each stamped VK Holdings. He pried one open, rows of ammunition carefully packed. He muttered under his breath, "Daniel, looks like you were right." Rex's growl drew his gaze. In the corner, beneath a tarp, lay military-grade cases untouched by dust. Ryan opened one. Disassembled rifles tagged for export. His chest tightened. This was enough to burn Kane. He lifted his radio. "Dispatch, this is Deputy Callahan. I've located a weapons cache in an abandoned cabin, Ridge Trail East sector. Requesting federal contact and immediate backup. Possible arms trafficking site." Static, then the dispatcher's faint reply. "Copy, Callahan. Backup en route. ETA 15 minutes. Proceed with caution." Ryan lowered the radio, eyes flicking to Rex. "We're not alone, are we?" The dogs froze, ears pinned. Rex's snarl vibrated low and dangerous. Outside, footsteps crunched in snow, voices low, deliberate. Ryan killed the lantern, plunging the room into darkness. He crouched behind the ammo crates. The wind rattled the door hinges. Then it swung wide. 3 men entered, rifles slung. The first into the moonlight was Victor Kane. Silver threaded hair slicked back, coat immaculate, eyes sharp and cold. "Well," he said smoothly. "Company, and busy company by the looks of it." His gaze drifted to the open crate. Ryan rose, weapon raised. "Victor Kane, you're under investigation for federal weapons trafficking. Hands where I can see them." Kane's smile was thin, amused. "Deputy, you're brave. But you're standing in evidence that could topple men far above me. Do you think you'll walk out with it?" Ryan's grip tightened. "Try me." One of Kane's men twitched, rifle lifting. Ryan fired a warning shot into the rafters. "Don't. Next one won't miss." The echo boomed through the cabin. Dust rained down. The dogs coiled, ready. Kane stepped forward, calm, hands half raised. "You think this is about me? You have no idea what you've stepped into." Another growl built in Rex's throat. Then, the flash. A gunman fired. The bullet tore past Ryan's sleeve. Rex launched, slamming Ryan aside just as another shot shattered the crate. They hit the ground hard, wood splintering where Ryan's head had been. "Rex," he gasped, but the shepherd was unhurt, crouched protectively in front of him. Luna and Finn flanked, snarling a wall of muscle and teeth. Kane's voice cut through chaos. "Take him alive." Gunfire exploded, the room lit with muzzle flashes, thunder echoing in the rafters. Ryan returned fire, shadows and smoke consuming the cabin. Rex barreled into one gunman, sending his rifle skidding. Ryan dropped another with a clean shot. When the echoes died, silence crashed in. 2 men were down. The doorway gaped open. Victor Kane was gone, his footprints already swallowed by the storm. Ryan lowered his weapon, chest hammering. He looked down at Rex, snow dusting his muzzle, eyes burning steady. "You saved my life," Ryan whispered, raw with disbelief and gratitude. Rex gave a quiet bark, tail flicking once. Outside, the storm howled, and somewhere in the dark, Kane was still moving. Darnell leaned back in his chair, eyebrows rising. "Callahan, you've lost sleep and nearly got yourself killed in the last 72 hours. Now you want to play kennel master." Ryan's voice stayed firm. "They're evidence, Sheriff. Witnesses, if you want to call it that. But they're also survivors. Put them back in the system, and they won't last a week." Darnell studied him, lips pressed into a thin line. He rubbed the bridge of his nose, muttering, "You really think you can handle 3 combat-trained shepherds on top of Kane breathing down your neck?" Ryan glanced toward the kennel yard through the frosted window. Rex was sitting perfectly still, ears forward, his silhouette framed in the orange wash of the yard light. "I don't just think it," Ryan said softly. "I know it." Silence stretched between them until finally Darnell sighed, picked up a pen, and scrawled his signature across the transfer order. He slid it across the desk without looking up. "They're yours. But when this goes sideways, and it will, you'll be the one cleaning it up." Ryan pocketed the papers, his jaw set. Wouldn't have it any other way. Outside, the cold bit hard as he crossed the yard. The dogs stirred at his approach. Luna pressed her scarred muzzle through the chain link, while Finn paced with restless energy. Rex simply waited, amber eyes locked on Ryan like he'd been expecting this moment all along. Ryan knelt, holding the signed order against the wire. "Looks like you're coming home with me." Rex gave a low huff, tail thumping once against the frozen ground. That night, the back of Ryan's SUV was filled with more life than it had ever carried. Rex rode upright in the passenger seat, steady and alert, while Luna and Finn shifted restlessly in the back. Snowflakes danced in the beams of the headlights as the SUV cut through the dark roads outside Pine Valley. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, Ryan felt something stir beneath the exhaustion. Not victory, not yet, but purpose. A fight worth bleeding for. And he knew one thing as the dogs settled in around him, scarred and battered but unbroken. Victor Kane hadn't just underestimated a deputy. He'd underestimated a pack. Darnell studied him for a long beat, the lines in his face deepening. "Callahan, you've been running on fumes for 3 days straight and nearly got yourself killed. Now you want to play kennel master." Ryan met the sheriff's gaze without flinching. "They're not just animals, Darnell. They're evidence. They're survivors. Put them back in the system and they won't last a week." The sheriff rubbed his forehead, weighing duty against what he'd seen. Finally he sighed, picked up a pen, and signed the transfer order. "They're yours. Keep them out of town limits, and when this blows up, you're the one cleaning it up." Ryan slid the paper into his pocket and nodded. Outside, under the street lamps 2 hours later, the kennel gates swung open and Rex, Luna, and Finn stepped into the snow like men tasting freedom. No chains, no collars, no orders, just cold air and open space. Ryan knelt beside them and offered a quiet smile. "You're home now," he told them. Rex pressed his head against Ryan's arm, Luna curled by the patrol tires, and Finn rolled on his side, tail tapping the ground. When they followed him into his small cabin that night, the place felt fuller than it had in months. Rex settled by the window, Finn by the couch, Luna at Ryan's feet. The fire crackled and the silence felt ordinary good. "Looks like it's just us now," Ryan said, and Rex answered with a soft bark that sounded like permission. Midnight found them stalking another kind of cold. Ryan crouched behind a broken freight wall, the red filtered beam of his flashlight low, breath puffing white. Rex crouched beside him, taut muscle under sable fur. Luna and Finn waited near the wrecked loading ramp like shadow sentinels. The tip had been simple. Kane was moving what remained of his cash out of Pine Valley tonight, and the chance to end it felt real enough to risk everything. Through binoculars, a figure moved Kane in a long black coat, hair streaked silver, flanked by men loading crates into a pickup. Ryan tried to call his unit. Static swallowed his voice. "Looks like it's just us, partner," he muttered. Rex answered with a low growl and they advanced, the dog's prints vanishing beneath falling snow. In the clearing they found the crate, Rex pawing at it until metal showed. Ryan snapped photos, radioed coordinates, and then the quiet cracked. Finn's tail knocked over a wrench and the clatter shattered the hush. "Who's there?" a voice barked. Ryan had no choice, he charged. Gunfire erupted, splinters flew, and the warehouse filled with the flash of muzzle fire. He found cover, took 2 clean shots, and watched Rex tackle a man before he could raise his rifle. The fight blurred, smoke, wood, dust, shouts. But Ryan saw Kane head for the exit, heard the name, Brooks, spit like a promise, and caught movement from the mezzanine. A man had a bead on him. A shot shattered the rafters and wood exploded by his head. Rex leapt up, stacked crates, slammed into the shooter, and sent him crashing. Ryan rolled, grabbed the fallen gun and shouted, "Rex off." The dog obeyed, panting, a living shield between Ryan and the attackers. Tires crunched beyond the warehouse and a black SUV disgorged more men. Reinforcements Kane clearly didn't want Ryan to see. The room became a riot of flashes and smoke. Daniel Brooks stumbled into the chaos, hospital coat beneath a borrowed parka. Limping and pale but determined, he'd come back to finish what he'd started. A bullet splintered a crate by Daniel's head and Victor emerged from the shadows with a pistol, furious and reckless. The scene turned animal and human into a single feed of motion. Rex bounded across the floor, tackled Victor's arm as the gun fired and the weapon skittered away. Ryan slammed into Kane, and they grappled in the snow-blown doorway while Finn and Luna guarded the entrance. When the knife in Victor's hand flashed, Rex lunged and ripped it free with a ferocity born of survival. Ryan cuffed Kane in a motion that felt both inevitable and small against everything that had happened. Sirens finally rose through the storm. Backup poured in late but enough. The warehouse filled with flashing lights, the floor littered with shattered crates and exposed weapons, and for the first time in a long while Ryan felt the adrenaline drain and something steadier settle in its place. He looked at Daniel, battered but upright, and heard him say, "Guess it's time." The truth spoke louder than fear. Rex pressed his head against Ryan's leg, exhausted and proud. Ryan whispered, "Good boy," like a benediction. Court came like thawing sunlight. In Jefferson County Courthouse, with dust and cold and the hush of people waiting for justice, Ryan sat at the witness bench and watched the evidence he and the dogs had unearthed form a chain strong enough to hold Kane. Victor Kane, gaunt and composed in custody, sat across the room. His empire, once towering, looked diminished under the courtroom lights. Deputy Harold Reeves sat in orange, his friendly diner wave face stripped of charm, proof that Kane's reach had crept into places no one wanted to admit. Judge Marjorie Ellis, stern and measured, read the court's judgment: 5 years for Kane, 15 for Reeves. The gavel cracked like thunder and Kane's cold smile never quite left his lips as he leaned close to Ryan and hissed, "You think you've cleaned the world? There's always another storm." Ryan answered simply, "Then I'll be there for the next one, too." Across the room Daniel, cleaner, steadier, took his place as a witness whose courage had mattered. "I don't deserve a clean slate," he told the judge, "but I'll take the chance." The judge's reply, "Make it count," felt less like mercy and more like a charge. Outside, the courthouse rain washed the melted snow into silver reflections. Daniel clasped Ryan's hand and said, "You saved my life more than once." Ryan only replied, "Just live right." Daniel left for a halfway house in Denver, a road forward shaped by testimony instead of fear. 2 weeks later, the county honored the men and the dog who had refused to give in. In a small hall as townspeople and officers gathered, Sheriff Darnell presented Ryan with a plaque for bravery and integrity, and a second one, unofficially and with a grin, for Rex. The applause was honest. Someone shouted, "Good boy, Rex," and the dog, once locked in chains and trained into brutality, sat proud with a quiet dignity. Luna and Finn had found families, children from a local farm who chased sticks and rolled in the grass, while Rex stayed close to Ryan, a partner in every sense. Ryan watched them play and felt something heal. He smoothed Rex's fur and said, "You've come a long way. Maybe it wasn't luck. Maybe it was grace." The bell tower chimed 6 times over the square as lanterns lit and laughter rose with the scent of food and pine smoke. The festival felt like a small, fragile rebirth. As they walked back to the patrol SUV with the last snow melting underfoot, Ryan let the leash go a little loose and felt the lightness of a town that could begin again. He started the engine and told Rex, "All right, partner, time to patrol this new season." Headlights cut through dusk toward a horizon no longer heavy with fear but with hope. Sometimes, he thought, God sends angels without wings, only fur and faithful hearts. Rex had been more than a dog. He was a reminder that even in the darkest storms, loyalty, courage, and love could guide people home. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that miracles still happen. Tell us where you're watching from and type "Emin" if you believe in second chances, and subscribe for more stories of faith, rescue, and redemption.